So hello and welcome to Wednesdays Weekly, your weekly bite-sized briefing webinar, a collaboration between Action Together, the voluntary community and faith sector and the public sector. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this episode of Wednesdays Weekly, delivered by colleagues from Greater Manchester Combined Authority on Digital Divide. So before we start, just a little bit of housekeeping. Please can I ask that you keep your microphones on mute whilst our guest presenters are speaking. Please say hi and introduce yourself into the chat. And following the guest speakers, we'll have an opportunity for questions. If any do spring to mind during the input from our speakers, please pop them into the chat and I'll bring you in when the presentation is concluded. And just a final little bit of housekeeping, we are recording today's webinar and it will be edited down and available on YouTube. If you would prefer not to be recorded, please keep your camera off. So without further ado, I'm really pleased to hand you over to Charlotte and John, who'll be taking us from here. Over to you guys.
Yeah, good morning.
Good
I'll
morning.
share my screen. There we go. Hopefully we'll do this straight. We always get like, if it goes wrong, oh, you're working digital, you've got to be able to do it first time. Let me slideshow from beginning. There we go. Just can everyone see that?
Yes, thank you.
Brilliant. I'll just start by introducing ourselves. John, do you want to go for it? I will say actually my name. I've just got married, and apparently on Zoom I'm still Charlotte Wardman, but I am Charlotte.Knight. But John, do you want to introduce yourself first, and then?
Thank you, Charlotte, and it's lovely to be here. My name is John Duncan. I'm the Digital Inclusion Programme Manager at GMCA. I've been on secondment from Virgin Media to Business for the last 2.5 years, supporting the team on delivering a whole range of digital inclusion projects on behalf of the Mayor's agenda. So I'm looking forward to going through that today. So thank you.
Thanks, John.
Brilliant. And I'm Charlotte Knight. I'm the Digital Inclusion Project Officer, working with John here at the Combined Authority, supporting him on a range of projects, but working really closely with the 10 local authorities that we've got across Greater Manchester to support them with digital inclusion initiatives. We'll go into a little bit more detail with the locality leads in a bit further in the presentation, but I'll start off. Apologies if this is really like, I have gone back to like the beginning really, so if you do know a little bit, apologies really. So just going to start the presentation by explaining like what digital inclusion is in for us. When describing digital inclusion, I usually describe it as a triangle, kind of the way you see it, with the 3 key points needed for a resident to be classed as digitally included. Those three aspects are a resident needs connectivity to be able to get online, they need devices, and they also need the skills to be able to access that, because even if they've got a device at home, they might not even have the skills to be able to access that. So that's what we're describing. Those skills also involve being confident and understanding online safety, being able to avoid scams online, but also as well within the middle of the triangle we see it as people having the confidence and motivation to get online. We all know, I mean, we all know that the benefits to this is there's everything is moving. A lot of public services are moving online these days. We know that employment, 95% of jobs now are advertised online only. Booking health, booking appointments, accessing health records, all are online. Finances, being able to access your online banking, compare prices. We know that people who are digitally excluded are paying a poverty premium. I was reading a statistic recently about 1 in 10 people who are digitally excluded paying up to £780 more for the bills because they're not able to compare those prices online, which people who are online are able to compare and get those better deals. So that's kind of what we're talking about when we talk about digital inclusion, ensuring that residents have the connectivity, skills and devices to get online. So obviously we've just been talking about more and more public services are moving online. This is especially what we've been hearing about recently. I'll just go through some of the big public services, the biggest complaints that we hear from residents not being able to access services. The recent in healthcare, the recent NHS survey showed that 47% of respondents to the NHS patient service said that it was not easy to contact the NHS via phone because they were directed to being online services. So this is nearly half of people who are trying to contact their GP not being able to, or not very easily being able to do it by the phone. We know that there's bank closures that are happening between 2015 and 2021. The number of banks have halved in the UK with the services moved online. But what I think is really interesting as well is quite a lot of older adults, 65% in the Lloyds Digital Index said that of over 65s they were using online banking, but actually, even though they were using online banking, there's still like that face-to-face conversation, particularly around banking, because it made them feel safer, more secure, and had that reassurance to have that conversation with somebody as well. Travel, I did have travel about ticket offices being closed, but good news yesterday is they've done a U-turn, so ticket offices are not closing anymore, which is good news. But I don't know if you can see the picture on the screen at the side. This was a recent journey that I made from Salford Central to Walkden, where if you got it online it was £2.30, but if you bought it at a ticket office it was £5.20 for the same journey, so you're actually paying 100% more. And the reason for that is that you can't buy advanced singles at a ticket office, you can only buy them online. So people, again, we're talking about this poverty premium, people paying more. We know that people who are digitally excluded are paying more to travel. And then obviously a big aspect since the pandemic, I think more and more education and online learning is being moved online for students. We're hearing ever more of students not being able to do homework because because it's all online. And I mean, the Nominate Youth Index showed that 26% of young people don't have access to a laptop. And if you're doing homework, you do really need a laptop, because doing anything on a mobile phone is really, really difficult. So these are just some of the stats to kind of show you what the struggles of just kind of high level of public services moving online. So what's the current landscape within Greater Manchester? We know that the pandemic obviously highlighted a massive digital divide between those that have and those that are online. Students not being able to access to learning online, people not being able to access appointments when all the appointments were online, people not being able to have that social interaction, which is really important, particularly during the pandemic. So we've been calling for connectivity and broadband to be classed as essential service. At the moment it's not essential, and VAT at the moment is 20% on broadband, so we are looking to cut that, so it would reduce the cost for people. We do know that up to 1.2 million residents could be classified as some form of digital excluded, meaning they're struggling with one form of either connectivity devices or the skills to get online. A big reason why people are not online is particularly around the cost and the cost of living. We know that in Manchester we have a lot of residents who live in social housing, 20% of residents that live in social housing. We recently had some research done by the University of Liverpool by Professor Simeon Yates as part of a pilot that we're doing. But one of the interesting findings was that about how a lot of the people who were interviewed, the qualitative interviews around Greater Manchester, that most residents said they had about £30 left at the end of the month, and about maximum of about £5 to spend on broadband at the end of the month. So these are just kind of some of the stats. So we know there's a massive issue around affordability. And we also think there's a myth around all young people being digitally included, and that eventually, as we move forward in time, that this problem will almost disappear. But we know that's not a problem. As you can see, one of the stats down the side of the page, around 1 in 3, 33% of young people aged 16 to 24 experience one form of digital exclusion. So that, again, the triangle, so either the skills, the connectivity, or the device, to not being able to get access to the internet online. I will just highlight a report that was done recently about nationally, about a House of Lords committee report that was just published in July of this year. So what happened was they worked together with a lot of the leading organisations within digital inclusion to come together to pull together kind of what is the high level, what's happening in digital, what are the problems and what needs to be done around it. And I don't know if you've read this report, very interesting. It's a really high level kind of, well, very detailed, it's pages and pages, but the report goes into explaining like what is happening nationally around this, but you can just see some of the key findings. The last time the government updated a strategy on digital inclusion was in 2014. So, and when they were questioned about this, about how the metrics for recording how their strategy was doing, they basically said there was no metrics. So there is no way actually. So they have a strategy, but they're not actually measuring the impact of the strategy. So it could be questioned what actions have actually been done towards the strategy. I mean, we know that these are just some high level stats there. You can see 1.7 million households have no broadband or internet access. Do we know that during the cost of living crisis that 1 million people have cut back on their usage of the internet. Yeah, and as public services are moving more and more online, we can see a worrying number. 5 million adults don't even have, sorry, it's 2.4 million adults are unable to get online and do basic things such as using a mouse, using an internet browser, sending an email. So we're paying more and more money to move all the services online, but actually you've got 2.4 million people, some of the most vulnerable people are most likely to use the services, who are actually not able to access any of those services because they don't actually have the skills. And then obviously a massive 5 million workers who are working in our workforce who don't have the digital skills they need to progress in their careers. And so the report has 5 main recommendations, really interesting, but just high level. It's about the cost of living support, about the idea of creating maybe vouchers so people are most vulnerable to not be able to afford broadband. Is about investing in basic digital skills. So create a plan of how they're going to upskill the workforce within digital skills. Boost digital hubs, which I know a few people have said here, they do kind of trusted people in known places, and working in community locations to really boost the support. Future proofing public services. The report talks about not replacing cheap alternatives with good service, so that the idea that there's still, and we would advocate that there's still, that people who cannot access online services, there's still a way that people can access services offline. And prioritising telecoms competition. So the more competition that there is, the more likely that people, that the cheaper the prices will be, basically. So I'll hand over to John, who's going to go into a little bit more detail about what we're doing at the CA.
Thank you ever so much, Charlotte. And yeah, it's really helpful for the context to be set there about what digital inclusion is and how it's impacting people. But I suppose what we'd really like to share with you guys is all about what we're doing here in Greater Manchester, how you can get involved, and some details about the projects that we're doing. So as part of our agenda, which was set out by the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, back in 2020, it was all about how we can build the right conditions to join up effectively people who are delivering digital inclusion work already. People like yourselves, Action Together, there's organisations who are doing amazing work in our communities, who are delivering support on some of the key points that Charlotte's already mentioned about delivering digital skills or providing access to devices and connectivity. And what we're trying to do is make sure that we can help coordinate that and bring it together so we've got a really good, strong, coherent message and offer of support across Greater Manchester. So what we did was we created a digital inclusion task force, and this is for members of anybody can join. We have over 240 members already, and that is from everybody from a local internet cafe on the high street to people like Microsoft and Virgin Media and BT and others. Anybody who's got an interest in digital inclusion and offer support, then they get involved and join our task force. And that task force is absolutely critical to us in the delivery of our projects and our understanding of what the challenges are and how we can deliver work in the communities. Working with that task force has helped us deliver a range of key projects. What we also have is a key steering group, if you like, a digital inclusion action network, which is chaired by the Mayor, and with about 25 or so members. Again, this is a cross-sector organisation represented from education, from health, from industry, from the social housing providers. And we also have a focus on 3 key cohorts of people that we've identified who are more likely to be excluded than other groups. And that is the under 25s, over 75s and disabled people. And so amongst our action network, we have subject matter experts on those groups to help us make sure that we're tackling the challenges that those individuals may face. Next slide, please, Charlotte. So what is our approach? So as I mentioned, we've got this targeted approach to cohorts, the key cohorts, the idea being that if we can support those groups, the chances are that we're going to be able to support all groups and to be able to offer solutions and provide projects that will deliver for everybody who needs digital inclusive support. So what we do is we are, as the combined authority, as Charlotte's already mentioned, we're working with the 10 local authorities and understand how we can use our collective sort of structure to be able to support maximising efficiencies value for money and delivery of the core functions across all the 10 boroughs. And what we do is we support those local delivery of services, which is those fantastic organisations who are delivering support already, and make sure that we can help, amplify the messages of what they're doing, be able to sort of join up and make sure that if they're lacking any support, that we can help with that. If there's funding opportunities, we can point them in the right direction of those key opportunities to get some funding. We work on an evidence-based approach, so we very much don't just go out and do stuff. We try and find out why and where the challenges are, so understand what is happening, and where we can support people. And then we'll talk about some of that evidence later on in regards to one particular tool that we use, which is called the Digital Exclusion Risk Index. What we also do is see how we can leverage business and how they can support the activities around digital inclusion. So that's called social value. So when there's a procurement and GMCA or local authorities in Greater Manchester are trying to get some businesses to engage, the ask there is to make sure that those businesses contribute to digital inclusion support, around about volunteering or providing free access to devices, or connectivity. One example is Virgin Media 2, and there's a case in Smallbridge in Rochdale where we've connected a local Smallbridge community centre with connectivity and helping that support into a digital inclusion hub. So it's that sort of way that we try and use businesses, funding and resources to deliver it in our communities. We also are trying to make sure that we mainstream digital inclusion and transformation of public services. So as we can imagine, we work with partners across the public sector, in the NHS, in education, and making sure that when anybody is delivering transformation, such as some of the things that Charlotte's already talked about, delivering new services which are going online, making sure that people are thinking about those who may not be included and how they can get support to access those same services. We work on a national level, and we engage with national organisations, and we engage with the government and big companies such as like Microsoft, for example. And Good Things Foundation, if you haven't already heard of them, are the leading charity on digital inclusion, who are a fantastic partner of ours, and we've worked very closely with, and we can give some examples of that in a bit. And finally, sort of how we deliver our work, it is really about that partnership work. And whenever digital infrastructure is being delivered, so whenever it's mobile or fixed broadband connectivity, we're making sure that we're talking about digital inclusion with those providers and making sure that as many people can get online as possible. Thank you very much. So we've kind of gone through quite a bit of this already, but this is sort of just the structure. I say we've got the 10 local digital inclusion leads. So we work really closely with the teams there. We're doing amazing work, and we try to help sort of, as I say, amplify that. I've already talked about the task force and the cross-policy work and the action network, so I won't go through all those again. But the last one is, I would definitely please ask you to check it out. This is our website, which is Get Online Greater Manchester, which is where we have that one single place where a whole range of support and updates on news and events and things like that are all in one place. So we use this and make sure that others can use it as a really good tool. For example, Citizen Advice, we know that they use it because they've used it for finding out where social tariffs are to support people who may be coming in and at the Citizen Advice and saying, I'm struggling with paying for my broadband or my mobile phone contract. Is there any information available? And actually, we've got all that in this one location. And we've also launched a digital inclusion map, but I'll let Charlotte talk about that later. So next one, please. So this is a bit about the key projects that we've actually delivered over the last few years across the whole of Greater Manchester. And again, it's all been about making sure that we're tackling the challenges that people are facing and making sure that we're coming up with some solutions which make a real difference. What we have been able to do is we've worked with a range of sorry, Charlotte, that's fine. With our key cohorts and partners such as, for example, Henshaws, who support disabled people or people with visual impairments. And we're making sure that across 9 of the 10 boroughs in Greater Manchester, that actually there's digital support there for people with disabilities. So that's something that's been rolled out. There's a fantastic guide that is coming out for disabled people, which Charlotte is leading on, which she can talk about. We've also created a guide in partnership with the Manchester University and the Good Things Foundation for over 75s, which is all about understanding how it make digital easy and accessible, and thinking about the users, the over 75s, when getting online. So the considerations. So if any of you are working with older groups, please have a look at this, because it's got some really good tips about how you can engage and work, and perhaps on, if you're delivering digital skills support, how to engage older people. We work with Charlotte really made a really good point earlier about safety and online harms, and making sure people don't fall victim to frauds or online bullying, etc. So we're working with Barclays on a program for older people. We've also been working on the same sort of challenges, but with a different audience, with care leavers, with an organisation called Internet Matters, who are helping young people keep away from online harms such as bullying or grooming, sexual exploitation, county lines, going into criminal activity, misinformation, disinformation. So that's been a project which has been delivered now, where care leavers are actually being upskilled to learn these things themselves and train other care leavers about how they can make sure that they keep safe while online. One of the key projects that's been delivered across Greater Manchester is the Go GM project for care leavers. This is where we actually combined a whole range of support. So 5 key offers about access to digital connectivity, skills, devices, and financial management support and careers opportunities in digital, all in one place. And we've now actually supported over 700 care leavers with those offers of support. And that was being driven by the social workers and the personal assistants who work with the care leavers, of which there's over 4,000 in Greater Manchester. So we're hoping to make a real support difference to those care leavers. We're working with Microsoft and a company called Phoenix. We've delivered digital skills support for teachers. I think the conversation we had pre to the meeting starting was about education, and obviously the engagement with young people, with children. And often we find that some digital skills isn't always there front and center with teachers, and they need that support as well to help with any queries that perhaps parents may have, or supporting, as Charlotte really well pointed out, that there's more and more education is going online. And the library staff, key in our communities, is working with libraries as a centre point for community engagement and supporting the local area with digital skills access. And we've been upskilling with digital skills library staff with Barclays and the digital security hub in Greater Manchester, which has been really successful. And I think it was about 70 library staff have now been upskilled, which is great. I suppose one thing is about we have really been talking about is the digital divide, and also about how we can support people who are in digital poverty. So we've already supported over 3,500 young people get access to a device. We've also been supporting people with a major project in social housing, which I'm going to come to a bit more detail in a bit. There are lending schemes or donation schemes across all 10 boroughs of Greater Manchester. There's the recycling of old kits, so we're trying to make sure that we're being as environmentally sustainable as we possibly can as well, and calling on businesses or large organisations who have come, their IT equipment has come to the end of its life cycle, that rather than going to landfill, it goes into refurbishment companies who then recycle it, and then it gets distributed into our communities. And as Charlotte mentioned, we also promote social tariffs. So organisations, big companies who have got a tariff, which is actually there available for people who are on benefits, that they can access these cheaper connectivity packages that have come from all the major telecommunications companies, which range from between £12 and £20 a month. but the majority of them are on a flexible contract rather than being fixed term. They're on a rolling month to month. So we've been trying to drive that, and uptake is increasing, but it's still not as high as potentially it could be. Okay, Charlotte, back to you. On the data bank.
Sorry, I just need to unmute myself. I'm not used to using Zoom. One thing we'd really like to share with all the organisations today is our GM Data Bank. So the GM Data Bank is kind of a food bank for connectivity of data. So we have free SIMs that have been provided from 3 telecoms providers, from Virgin Media O2, from 3 and from Vodafone. And within that, it includes free mobile data, talk minutes and text, different amounts of data and different providers, but this is completely free. We ask the organisations are invited to click up and apply, obviously completely free for low income families and for families that are in need during the cost of living crisis. So organisations, we have 157 currently across Greater Manchester who have become data banks across Greater Manchester, and you'll see here actually the Good Things Foundation, one of the charities that we work with, one of the leading digital inclusion charity, have actually mapped some of the sites. So you can see the ones we've got permission for. So you can click on this link if we share the slides afterwards, Gemma. You can see some of the links. I have also I've literally, this has just gone live, so since I've come back, so I have also done my digital inclusion mapping, which also includes the data banks along with digital skills sessions, which I'll put in the chat after this session, but or after I finish sharing, but a little bit tells you a little bit more about where you can find these data banks. But we're here today kind of encourage more and more people to sign up, for organisations to become data banks and to sign up and to give out these free SIMs to residents in need. There's more, if you click on the link below, there's more information from the GMCA website that explains how you can sign up and a little bit more about that. It's absolutely free. There's no catch. So we have this is organised through the Good Things Foundation, so they do webinars that help explain how the whole process works, and if people are interested can sign up to the webinars with the Good Things Foundation. But we're just keen to get as many data banks, because there's so many free SIMs out there, and especially during the cost of living crisis and the winter months coming ahead, we're just really keen to get as much as the support out there as well. Particularly people are losing their broadband, but just having this kind of emergency backup mobile data that can be used. It's for 6 months and then can be done for another 6 months, can be used up to a year with residents. When they have started collecting, just so the duplications, names of people who get them, that's all, and the person who asked for a free SIM. But basically that's how it works. You can find out a little bit more information on the link at the bottom of the page. It tells you more about that, about becoming a data bank and being able to give out these free SIMs to residents in need. I think we've given out, is it 28,500 now, John? Something like that.
Over 28,000, yeah.
So 28,000 free SIMs have been given out to residents. A big chunk of those have been given out by our library services, but almost 50%. But we're always looking for organisations who are working with people and community groups who know people, who know residents who will benefit from this offer, who haven't heard about it, to sign up and to get that, to give out these free SIMs. You can also sign up to become an online centre as well. An online centres are places where you can record, places where residents can go to access free Wi-Fi and devices at different times. So and they're also on the map as well, so they're what online centres are. And then another ask of ours is that members join our digital inclusion task force. We have massive organisations that are involved in this. You can see some of them. I've just put some of the logos below from some of the members on our task force, but we're always interested in people getting involved. This is very much partnership work. People will come with asks. It's very much connecting the telecoms industry and different partners that are interested to work with people, to hear from people, but also to get from a perspective from people who are working on the ground with people. Sometimes people working on projects and not always working face to face with people, and it's good to get that real life experience from people and to get that connection in with people who work in the VCSE sector, working with people on the ground. So we have 240 members. So if you're interested in becoming a member of our task force, there's a link at the bottom of the page. You have to sign up and then you'll be sent an invite, but it meets bi-monthly. It's an hour and a half, but just a great meeting to to share a bit more about the upcoming task force events that are going on. So I don't know, before I finish that, John, do you want to go a little bit through, you said about the social housing pilot. Do you want to explain a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, very, very quickly, but thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, just to say the social housing pilot was probably our largest piece of project work that we've done. And as Charlotte articulated earlier, about 20% of the population of Greater Manchester live in social housing, and from data that we have, proportionately more people are digitally excluded in social housing than in elsewhere. So what we did was we brought together 5 social housing providers with 5 internet service providers. And what we did was sort of match them up with the idea to understand what the conditions could be of how a telecommunications company could actually make a difference and look at how they can tackle digital exclusion when working with social housing providers. So BT, Virgin Media O2, Vodafone, TalkTalk and Hyperoptic all worked with social housing providers across Greater Manchester with a set amount of residents. And what was happened was they created different packages of support. So from volunteering packages to connectivity support, new broadband deals and offers, and in one case with Vodafone, they issued free data SIMs to 1,000 residents. So from that, the idea was that we were going to take a big piece of research from that to understand what could be delivered on a sustainable level to make sure that digital exclusion work can be tackled and move forward. What we did was we've recently released a report which has got the findings from that, and Charlotte already sort of alluded to some of the findings from that with regards to affordability has been a real barrier for people, even still after social tariffs have been introduced and promoted. I think that one of the key things was that social housing providers, those who are already thinking about digital inclusion, have digital inclusion staff working for them, were doing some amazing work and were some really good best practice where they're delivering drop-in sessions so people can just go in and ask for support and not necessarily being in a skills program, but delivering a task-based support, which was really, really positive, where volunteers could come in from the telecommunications companies and then add their support, which was really, really beneficial. There was a whole range of support that was delivered through the programme. And I say some of it worked, some of it didn't work. So there is some really, really helpful findings within the report. So again, an ask would be to have a look at that. But we have lobbied government on the back of this work and making sure that people understand that that there is ways and means that we can move forward and tackle digital exclusion in social housing with strong leadership. And the idea now is that across all of the Greater Manchester Housing Providers Group, that there's 25, that they're all going to look at how they can deliver digital support, digital inclusion support in their housing stock and for their residents. So it was a big piece of work, and one that we think is going to hopefully make a really, really big difference, leading towards new policies for digital inclusion. So I think that thank you, Charlotte, for bringing that back.
I'll just the slides you sent with just a little read, if you want to look at the digital inclusion part from the House of Lords, a little bit investigate whether you can become a data bank, sign up to become our task force, and if you'd like to contact us, I'll put my email at the bottom of the page as well. So thank you. Any questions, I suppose?
Thanks, guys.